Welcome to this Gluware tutorial on the topic of using the Integrated Device Manager to take a dynamic inventory of the network devices. Device Manager is an integrated component of the Gluware Control Base Package. This tutorial is meant to guide you along on your test drive of Gluware. For more information about the test drive, visit gluware.com/test-drive. Gluware is an intelligent network automation platform providing turnkey capabilities to inventory your network, perform config, drift, and audit, operating system upgrades, manage configuration, and more. In this tutorial, we're going to start with using Device Manager to take a dynamic inventory. So here, using a Chrome browser, I am pointed at a Gluware system that happens to be on-prem. Gluware can run from the cloud or on-prem, and I'm signing into that system with the credentials I've been provided with. My credentials happen to be an administrator. However, Gluware provides 5 different role-based access controls, and if you're taking the Gluware test drive, you will just be an operational user. So there will be administrative tasks and other things that you will not have access to in this demo. So let's jump into where you're getting started, which is the Device Manager. So you just navigate into the Device Manager app. One thing you want to be aware of is, Gluware being driven through a web browser, you can jump into your web browser settings and zoom in or zoom out to your preference of, the resolution, what fits on your screen best. Also, you'll notice here in this Device Manager instance, there are no devices added. For the test drive, your administrator will have already added your devices that you'll be working with. But I did want to walk you through a demonstration of what that looks like. You can add individual devices by clicking on the prompt available on your screen, or by adding a device using the Add Device icon. When you're adding a set of devices, it's much easier to import that using a file. So I'm going to click on Import Devices, and I can drag and drop a CSV file or just select it from my computer. I'm going to select that from my computer and import the file. This is in a specific format. You can download the template there in that option. But once I pull in that file, I see I have 9 devices that I've pulled in, and I click OK. So all Gluware needs is the IP addresses, a name for reference of what that device is, and the credentials for read-only access for discovery. You could either have the credentials in that sheet or deal with them separately. So when I first add devices into Gluware, and this will probably be what you'll seeing when you start your test drive, is you're going to see some IP addresses and a lot of blank information. That first step or action you're going to want to do is select your devices and execute a dynamic discovery. So to do that, in your Actions panel over here, there's an icon called Discover Devices, and you're going to want to click that. When you click that, you're going to see the Discover status start to change here in Gluware. In parallel, all these devices, it's going to go out and start interrogating these devices. So let's take a look at one device in particular. You can double click on any device while your discovery is taking place, and it's going to navigate you to this view called Activities. Activities, you're going to see the various log events that have occurred, and you can click into the details to see what the Gluware engine is doing as it interrogates that device. Gluware does not require SNMP access to these devices. It is performing an SSH connection and then running a device detect library that is determining what vendor it's talking to, what operating system, and then through that it's running a series of commands to interrogate that particular vendor and operating system to pull the desired information. So as I can see here on the Cisco device, it's logging in and it's executing things like show version to pull the software version, and you can log in through here and see what it's performing and all the data that's available to Gluware that it's collecting. You have all the details in the log there. What you'll see down here in the grid, in roughly a minute or so, all these devices the discovery has been completed, and you can see what information is available. So as mentioned, Gluware discovers the vendor. What I see here, Gluware has discovered the operating system. We're pulling the operating system version, which is very useful. We've had many customers think or have a general understanding of what versions they're running in their live network. When they run our dynamic discovery, they are sometimes surprised to see more versions running than they were aware of. Using Gluware, they can then have that information to go and plan an OS upgrade to unify or change if needed. We're pulling the SKU, serial number information, and Gluware is extensible. Any of the information you see pulled can be regexed out and pulled into this display. An example here is a customer had requested we pull in the uptime stat for Cisco devices, and so you see that in the grid. If you're curious of what other information is available to display in the grid, just click on the cog on your action bar here, and you can see the different options of information that can be pulled into the grid. Again, if there is information that you'd like to see that is not there, you can contact Gluware, and we will be happy to extend the capability of the device detect and pull in that various information as needed. Let's walk through a few things now you can do once your inventory is done. As mentioned over here in the actions bar, there's discover, so at any time you can execute a dynamic discovery. These next three icons, actually this one in particular, update support data, is for a particular vendor running with API access, so we're going to cover that in use case 2. This third icon is adding devices manually. If you do click on add devices, you're prompted for a name, and then you will be prompted for the IP address and connectivity information, and then you can go and execute a discovery. This next icon here is for a multi-edit or edit of the device. Anytime you double click into a device, you're going to see this first field of details exposed, and if you do need to change the IP address or name or connectivity information like the proxy server, you can edit a device one by one, or if you have multiple similar devices and you're changing something in common, you can select those devices and click this multi-edit, and therefore you can actually edit fields across multiple devices. So that's multi-edit. And next is you have the ability to clone devices. So if for some reason I was adding a device that's very similar to Spoke 1, I could just clone the device and then edit whatever I needed to if it was faster than adding it manually. So we've already talked about import. I've demonstrated an import. And then you have the ability to export. So export will take all this data collected and export it for you in a CSV format. And the last icon is trash or delete device. If you have pulled in a device that you do not now want to manage with Gluware, you can delete that out. So looking across the top panel, again, as I double click into any one of these nodes, on the top panel you're going to have your device details, so you can scroll through and see what details have been entered by you or imported as well as discovered. These next three around end of life, end of sale, advisory, and SmartNet details we're going to cover in use case 2. Then you have this view for configuration. So each time the Gluware engine connects to a device, it is always pulling the current running configuration just in case it's ever needed to recover for backup purposes. So, Gluware across all your vendors will have that ability to pull and store the running configuration. And so that's what that view is here. And this final view here, activities, we've already covered, is the detailed log and interaction of the Gluware engine with each device. And you have the ability to go in and see all the details of what Gluware was doing on the command line and or API and all the access it's performing. That covers essentially your orientation to the device manager. There's a couple other things we'll touch on, including one thing already mentioned is the cog here. You can turn on and off columns that you want in your view. You can, when you're working with a much larger inventory, you may want to perform things like group by to find devices that have common features. So like, let's say, common vendors. So I can group and see I have 8 Cisco devices and 1 Juniper device in this example test bed. Therefore, I can execute and do things with sets of devices. So I can then clear that filter. Next is I can click on filter and type anything into this, and also using regex. So let's say I wanted to find anything that says ASA. You can literally just type right into the search bar and find that. The other powerful, if I clear that view here, the other capability you have with the filters, if you click the down arrow, you get the advanced filter, and you can build out combinations with and or to actually do a more granular search. If I want to find a specific series of router with a specific operating system, I can add in that information and filter and find that information in my grid. So with that, this concludes the tutorial on the Device Manager and performing dynamic inventory. Hopefully you continue your test drive and move on to the next test case.